Hey, in this video we're going to have just a little quick fun with the dot product. So in Unity I had left off making procedural geometry that generates a checkerboard of smiley faces. Now what I'd like to do is make this checkerboard react to my player in some way, and I'm going to try to keep it simple. I'm just going to change its color. So in order to change its color, I'm going to be affecting properties of how it renders, and so I'm going to have to adjust the mesh renderer component. So the mesh renderer has materials, just one so far. So I'm going to adjust the one material that we have and change its color. So in my tank battle checkerboard script, I would like to have first of all a reference to that mesh renderer. So let me make mesh renderer, I'll call it renderer, and then in my start function I'll get that reference. Renderer is equal to get component mesh renderer. Okay. And then later on, I can mess around with that variable. So I'm going to do that in my update function so that this changes every frame, and I can control it as time goes on. So let's say renderer dot. So renderers have materials. If they have a single material, then you can just use the material property. And then materials have a color property. Once you start messing with this, if you assign a new value into a material's color, Unity will make a copy of the material, so it doesn't affect everything in your scene. It'll just affect it for this one renderer. So that's kind of nice. So color is of type capital C color, and so I can do things like color dot red, right? And see how that looks. Okay, looks pretty red. So what this does is zeroes out all of the other components, blue and green, and just has the red values from the image that are left. Alright, so what if I'd like to sort of combine this, and sometimes it's red, sometimes it's some other color. Let's call into our friend lerp. So colors can be interpolated. If you want to blend between two colors, just use color.lerp and it will interpolate each of the red, green, blue, and alpha components of that color. So let's say we're going to interpolate from red to white. And let's go halfway. Alright, so it should be more like pink. Yep, that looks better. And if I go all the way, 1.0 or further, because this is a clamped lerp, yep, then we get white. And so white doesn't change the texture at all. It comes through with its full color. You can imagine white means use the texture as it is, and any other color is multiplying the color components by a value that's between 0 and 1. So it's always going to make it smaller, closer to black. So it will take away colors, and you can't really add colors with this kind of color system. Alright, so interpolating from red to white, and I want to change this interpolation parameter so that sometimes it's red, sometimes it's white. And so I'm going to use the dot product, but there's this interesting way to use the dot product. If I have, essentially what I have is a plane, a surface here, and I can try to figure out how far away the player is from that plane. Maybe it's like a Metroid game or something where when you get close to a platform it changes color. So something along those lines. Let's make a vector 3 separation vector. Let's find out at least how far are we from some point on the plane. I know one point on the plane is definitely transform.position, because I set up my geometry so it renders it on the XZ plane. So this is essentially some point in 3D space that lies in that plane. And I'll get the separation vector from my player. So in my tank battle program, I have this level manager that can get me that reference real quick. Alright, then I need the player's position. There. Okay, so now we've got a separation vector. It's essentially a directed distance from the plane to the player. And I want to find out how far away it is from the plane wherever you are, even if you're off of the side of the plane. I only want it in the direction the plane is kind of pointing, so I can find out how much of this separation vector is in that direction. That direction, Unity gives us an easy way to get that. Transform.up is the local up vector of this object, the checkerboard. So if this thing gets rotated or moved or whatever, this transform.up is always going to be pointing in a direction that's perpendicular to the plane, or normal to the plane. So this is the normal vector, and I can dot these things together to find out how much of this separation is in that direction. So let me make a new variable here, vector 3 dot separation and transform.up. Okay, so now we got a distance. So how much separation there is in the up direction, the local up direction. And I'll just, I don't know, just take some value here. This would mean that at 0 distance or less we get 0, so the whole thing would be red, and as we get closer to 4 distance, 4 meters away from the thing, it's going to turn white. So let's try that out. Alright, there's red. Now I don't have a jump button or anything, so let me just grab my tank in the scene view and move him up. There we go. So as I get 4 units away, it turns white, and as I get closer, red. Cool. And because I did it a math way and not just hard coding things, I can do other things with it. Let's see, geometry holders, my object. Let's say my plane is over here and rotated. It should still work the same when I get close to the plane and when I get far from it. When I pass it, it's red. If I get 4 units away from it, it's white. And this works at any rotation now because I did it mathematically. Right, close to the plane, far from the plane. Cool. Alright, so that's just a demonstration of some of the cool things you can do with the dot product. Some of it can be pretty surprising, and if you play around with it, try a bunch of things, and think about it geometrically, that the dot product can tell you how much of a vector is in a certain direction. You can do a lot of really cool things. All right, I'll see you around.